Since I made this podcast, I have a new joy. Every week I have a chance to sit down, partly to share with you the content of the podcast, but partly to give me the feeling that it's like a weekend. I have a chance to sit down and talk to my friends from afar. Some of you ask me why I didn't make it more weekly, but only a few a week. To be honest with you, my time is not allowed at the moment. Most of my time during the week is for work. In addition to consulting work in the government, I am also consulting for some other companies. In addition, I am also writing a book. Therefore, the time I spend on this podcast is mainly focused on the weekend. But in my practice, every time I do something, I try to do everything very meticulously, so it takes a little time. But don't worry, no matter how busy I am, I will still arrange a certain amount of time for this podcast, because since I started doing this activity, it has brought me a lot of joy. For now, let's meet once a week, around Saturday or Sunday. Then I will post it right away. If there is a week when I have more time, I will collect more. However, I don't dare to promise this. Also, because I don't have a fixed schedule, the best way is to register and receive notifications from YouTube. To do this, it is quite simple. You guys click on the register button, then click on the bell button next to it. A list will appear, then you guys choose all. You guys do that. Every time I post a new episode, YouTube will immediately notify you. In addition, you can also follow me on Facebook. Whenever I post a new episode, I will update it there. I will put my Facebook link in the description of this video. Back to our main topic today. Today we will continue to go to part 2 of the list of financial freedom. First, I have to be honest with you guys that I didn't think that the number last time was received so much, because the first reason is about personal finance. Personal finance is a topic that I initially thought that not many people care. But I still decided to do it. Because for me, when I do this podcast, my goal is not to do something that gives it a lot of views. But I really want to create value for you guys, especially young people. As I have said many times, as long as my shares bring some positive effect to a few people, it is worth the effort I put in. The second reason is because this is the first number. It is the number that I dig deep into the part of what and why. What and why, although it is important, but it is like we learn theory before we go to practice. Learning theory is always more boring than practice. But as I said in the previous number, understanding it clearly about what we are going to do and the reason why we do it is very important. That's why I finally decided to do that number first. And even today, for those of you who haven't heard the first number, I still advise you to listen to the first number first and then listen to this number again. Because of those two reasons, at first I thought that number would not have many viewers. However, the result is that I was very surprised. That episode was received very positively by everyone. After posting that episode, I received a lot of messages and emails saying that you watched it and were very inspired. And that is also the number that I received a lot of comments on YouTube. And I would like to apologize to you that I don't have time to answer all those comments. But don't worry, I read them all. And I am very happy when I read your comments. Actually, there is nothing more fun than seeing what I do bring back a certain amount of value to the people around me. And it also gives me a lot of motivation to continue doing this podcast activity. As I said last time, from today, along with the audio, I have prepared some more slides and drawings. I still post on other podcast channels, such as Spotify, Apple, or Google. However, if possible, you should follow me on YouTube to make the experience more complete. This is also the reason why I chose YouTube as the main channel for this podcast. To get to the YouTube channel of this podcast, you just need to type in the name hugh.tv in the comments. Now I would like to start our main topic today. Today, we will start talking specifically about the financial freedom journey. What are the steps? Usually in my talks, I have the habit of going step by step, then I come to the conclusion. But in this article, I will make it a bit different. I will show you the whole journey from the beginning. This is our whole journey. In total, we will have 12 steps, and it is divided into 4 stages. I will explain to you about all the steps in these stages, and in the following parts, we will go deeper into each stage. The first stage of this journey, I call it the debt stage. This can be called a sound stage, and it is the starting point for most young people abroad. The reason is that when you start to come to life, you will have a fairly large debt called student loan, which is the money you have borrowed from the government to go to college. Next is the second stage. I call it the financial dependence stage. I translate this term into Vietnamese in a more civilized way. I call it the family bond. And this is the starting point for most of us in Vietnam. This is like a zero, which means that although it is not as negative as foreigners, but we still have nothing in our hands, and we still have to cling to our family. Then the third step is the step where we start to work, and we can raise ourselves. This is the step that I think most young people are in this stage, and there are also many people who will stop at this step and continue to live their whole life at this step. However, if you stop at this step, this is a step that we are still living in a way that we can use it every month. And in the previous episode, I said that living like that will create a lot of financial risks. If something goes wrong, it will be very difficult for us to turn around. That's why I put these 3 steps together in one stage, which I call the stressful and uneasy stage. Next is the fun stage, which is the opening stage. However, calling it that sounds a bit too big, so I call it in a more affordable way, which is the tracking and action stage. There are 3 steps in this stage. The first is when we start to know how to plan, track, and control our spending. This step is very important because it will help you calculate your basic financial goals, especially the 2 numbers, that is the minimum spending level and the standard spending level. The reason it is important is because it is the number we will use to calculate for the next steps. After setting up all the tracking and spending activities, we start to move on to the action stage. The first thing to do is to pay off all the bad debts you have. I call this step the debt clearing step. This is also a very important step, and in this step I will share with you how to analyze what is a bad debt and what is a good debt. In addition, there is a way to prioritize, which means to set the priority order of each debt, so that from there I can determine which debt should be dealt with first, which debt should be dealt with later, and then we go to the process of how to deal with each debt. If you can do this step, it is already a great success for you. It will help bring your life to a new stage. It is much easier and more comfortable, because from now on, you don't have to live with the pressure of debt anymore. After finishing the debt clearing step, we will move on to the 6th step, which is the step where we will set up our money flow. The reason is that if we let the money run all over the place, it will be very difficult to manage, and it will easily lead to the risk that we will use money that we shouldn't use. I will guide you how to divide the money flow and how to make it effective. I will also introduce to you how the everyday account is, what kind of spending it will use, how is the saving account, and what kind of activities the saving account will use. In addition, I will also help you set up an emergency fund, and another one is the rainy day fund, or sometimes they call it sinking fund. So what is it first, rainy day fund and emergency fund? How are these 2 different, and why should we set up these 2 funds? As well as how to calculate the reasonable ratio for each. After setting up these, you will start to have the necessary runways for life, as well as we will know specifically how long our runway will last. In the event that something happens, our quality of life will not be affected. These activities, in addition to creating a safe financial runway for us, it also helps us get rid of the feeling of insecurity about finance in life. Next, we will move on to a new phase. If you use the correct English word for this phase, it is called well-building, but I don't know how to translate this word. If you translate it, it will be the phase of building prosperity, but it sounds long and cumbersome. So I temporarily call this phase the period of accumulation and investment. It means that after you have completed the 6th step in the previous phase, it is as if we have reinforced a solid rear. Now is the time for us to start recruiting soldiers to start going to war. The actor I call going to war, I caught him in front of an actor named Kevin O'Leary. He is a judge and a very famous investor. He is also the host of Shark Tank in the U.S. In an interview, he said that he considered his money as soldiers, and every day he would release those soldiers to war. And at the end of the day, he wanted his money soldiers to bring him more soldiers. This is a fun way to talk about how we do it so that the money gives us more money. And this is also the main focus of this phase. That is, we will start the accumulation and investment. Before we start going to war, we need to take a step. That is, we have to recruit soldiers. Because, of course, only when we have capital can we talk about investment. We will carry out this phase with 2 activities. Start by building an investment project. In addition, there are percentages to manage this project. And besides that is the second activity. It is to continue to create more passive income. In English, it is called passive income. The reason why these 2 things must always go hand in hand, because that is a very basic principle of any well-building activity. There is a very famous saying in this. I will put this saying on the screen. And this saying temporarily translates as, good well-builders are people who must always focus on 2 activities. The first is to reduce expenses, and the second is to increase revenue. After a while, thanks to these 2 activities, we will start accumulating a certain amount of capital. From there, we will move on to the next phase. That is the investment activities. In this step, I will share with you about how to choose investment models, how to make it effective, and how to divide the portfolio ratio, how to make it safe, according to my personal experience, and 3 steps in this phase. These are 3 steps that we can proceed step by step. It is not necessary to do it in the same way. Wait for this step and then move on to the next step, and I will also give you a clearer guide about this in the next part. When to do which step, and also note with you, this step may take quite a long time. We just keep accumulating and investing. Then we will reach the 4th phase. This is the threshold that we are heading to. That is when we go through the so-called financial freedom phase. In this phase, there are 3 steps, and these 3 steps are also concepts that many people are confused about, and sometimes misunderstood. The first step of this portfolio, it is called financial security. It means that this is the step that we reach the financial security level. This is when we have enough money, so that it can ensure a basic standard of living until the end of life. It means that in unavoidable cases where we can no longer work, we are still guaranteed a minimum standard of living. The second step, it is the phase that we call financial independence. That is financial independence. This phase will lead us to a concept called FIRE. It is the abbreviation of the word Financial Independent Retirement Early. That is the step that we can stop working, so that the needs related to our money are still fully guaranteed to the extent we want. It means that from now on, we don't have to change time to get money anymore, and that will open up many other doors for us. And finally, the highest level of this journey. That is the goal that everyone who performs this financial freedom journey also wants to aim for. That is the financial freedom phase, translated as financial freedom. This is the state where we are completely separated from the influence of money. At this point, money will become a tool to serve our other goals. In this part, I will help you figure out where is the financial security, financial independence, and financial freedom. In addition, I will also help you distinguish the 2 concepts that are often misunderstood and often confused with each other. That is, financial independence and financial freedom. Through that, you will also understand why financial freedom usually comes after financial independence. However, sometimes it also comes before financial independence. And through that, we will understand why financial freedom is our ultimate goal. That is when we can rest assured that from now on, money will no longer affect our quality of life. That is when we can say, "Fuck you, money." That is our entire financial journey. And please note, this is my personal formula. I made it up for myself. Maybe it won't be like other people's formulas. However, based on my personal experience, I believe this is a fairly clear formula and effective. And as you have seen, this is a very long journey to go from one step to another. Sometimes we have to spend many years. Because of that, it requires a lot of determination and persistence. During this process, I have made a lot of mistakes. Since then, I have accumulated lessons for each step, and I hope that with my upcoming sharing, it will help you avoid those mistakes. From there, you will save time and effort to complete this journey. I hope that through my sharing today, it will help you and your friends have a general view of this entire financial freedom journey. I don't know about you, but for me, when I came up with this journey for myself, and then I got to see the whole picture, I was very excited. Because of that, I hope you feel the same way. I hope that after my sharing today, I have conveyed a little more inspiration to you about this journey. Through each episode, we just need a little more inspiration, so that at the end of this series, we have enough motivation to step in and do this journey. That would be great. In the next episode, I will start to go deeper into each phase. And in each step, in each phase, what should we do? How should we set the goal? And what experiences should I do? What should I avoid? I will share everything with you. From there, it will make your journey a little easier. And with this episode, I would like to end here. If you find the content I share in this episode helpful to others, please share it with your friends. Thank you for watching. See you next week.